So tell me what you understand by this term heterodox economics. And I should preface my question by saying I'm going to be asking you about the fact that you've created at your college a master's program in heterodox economics. So I'm going to explore that with you. But let's begin by what is heterodox economics?
Well, as you mentioned in your introduction, heterodox economics is kind of an umbrella term for capturing alternative perspectives to the mainstream of the discipline, to the orthodoxy. So in that sense, it refers to the outside of the discipline. The concept itself also is kind of problematic because it doesn't necessarily imply that it's a critique of capitalism. It's just that it might be a different way, for example, of celebrating the system that's not on par with the mainstream. So in that sense, it's a very broad umbrella term. So it's not like what some people like to say that it's just like, radical political economy with a new name, right? Like here in New York City, people like to speak about, oh, salsa music is just mambo. No, it's a different thing. But we use that term to highlight the openness of alternatives to the orthodoxy.
Okay, so tell me, why is it necessary? Why did your colleagues and you choose to specifically designate your new master's economics programs as heterodox? Why choose that name at this time?
Well, against all attempts to silence alternatives, there has always been a demand for alternative viewpoints concerning the explanations of how the system works. And usually this demand for alternative viewpoints just explodes in moments of crisis of the system. So for example, in the 1970s, this happened. New textbooks were created, probably the most famous one, which sought to be an alternative to the classic Paul Samuelson introductory textbook, which is the Bible of the discipline, was a project by John Eatwell and John Robinson. That didn't get off the ground very well. Then you had at the turn of the century with that crisis that started around 97 and ended up in 2001 that cut countries like Russia, Argentina, Turkey. You had calls in countries like France from students in universities asking for changes in the curriculum. And with the latest downturn of the economy, we had the case, for example, of students walking out of the classes of somebody like Greg Mankiw, who right now is the most renowned author of the basic textbook that most economic students are willing and are expected actually to tackle and learn from. So in that sense, we are kind of a product of the ups and downs of the crisis, and specifically our department took the shape it took around 2008, 2009, which is, the critical years of, the downturn, the most recent downturn of the system. So we basically tapped into that demand, and we had, thankfully, which is kind of lucky, the support of the institution to precisely provide this alternative views to our students.